exchange. Okay, 6.4 gas exchange. I would love to be your maid of honor. If you end up getting married, if you give up on um IB and get married, then I will um yes. I will be your maid of honor. Chill, Ichigo, chill. Chill, chill. Yeah. I'm done with 9. Dear God. Okay. So, let's get started. Can we see my screen? Can we see my screen? Is it working? Is it working? Are we good? Let's go. Okay. So, 6.4 gas exchange. This is about everything about the respiratory system and the lungs and all of the fun stuff. So, the first thing about gas exchange that we need to know is obviously ventilation and how it works. So, people who were here yesterday know that cell respiration occurs in the cytoplasm and mitochondria of cells, and they release energy in the form of ATP for use inside that very cell. But cell respiration can only happen, complete cell respiration and aerobic cell respiration can only occur when oxygen is present. For oxygen to be present and carbon dioxide to be expelled from that reaction, we obviously need to be able to inhale and exhale, or take in and release these two gases, and that's what gas exchange and ventilation basically is. So the process of swapping one gas for another is called gas exchange. Swapping oxygen for carbon dioxide is known as gas exchange, which is what happens in the cells. But then in our lungs, carbon dioxide is exchanged for oxygen, and that's what gas exchange is. That happens by diffusion in the alveoli of human lungs. So in our lungs, which I will talk about lung structure next, we have small sacs called alveoli, and these are what facilitate the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, this process of gas exchange is heavily dependent on the concentration gradients of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air in the alveoli and blood flowing in the capillaries around it. So, to be able to maintain the concentration gradients, the air in the alveoli have to be refreshed frequently, and the process of bringing fresh air into the alveoli is called ventilation. So, now an exercise. Label from A to G. Please spoiler your answers with double bars on each side of your answers. While you guys are answering this, I'm doing Duolingo. Because the owl, will come and kill me. Please spoiler your... No, it's okay. Just copy your answer and then delete it before anyone... I mean, people probably saw, but might as well delete it before. They will never die. The owl will come and kill me. And I'm home alone. It could very well come and kill me. Okay. By the way, you guys are answering, but I'm not gonna check your answers. Check them yourself and then let me know how many you got right. I'm just waiting for enough people to answer, or basically to see that several people are no longer typing. The owl is gonna murder my family. I'm gonna cry. This is for DP. DP. This is DP. Hi, D. Okay. What language am I learning? Okay, it's funny because I've done French for like almost 10 years now, but I'm still doing French on Duolingo just because I decided to do it. Please spoil your answer. I beg. Just don't dox me, and I don't care if you're from my school. Put these double bars on either side of your answer. I'm very proud of you. I haven't checked your answer, but I'm very proud that you answered it confidently. Like an hour? 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 I don't know. We just finished 6.3 and we're going through 6.4 now. No, they don't. And by the way, if you are an MYP, can you get rid of the alumni role, please? And thank you. Okay. So everyone check your answers because I cannot check that many answers. A is intercostal muscles. So the way to identify those is the white spaces are E, which we will come to, but the white spaces are bone, and then the things that link all the white spaces together are the intercostal muscles. The B is bronchus. That's what splits into two sides. C is the trachea. So I think someone said is esophagus, but that doesn't. I mean, it's not a bad answer in terms of just identifying on face value, but it's not the esophagus because it's this is part of the respiratory system, so you won't see the esophagus here. D is left lung. So yeah, like I said, the white spaces are bones, which are your ribs, and they form the cage around your lungs, but the muscles between them are the intercostal muscles. F is the diaphragm. Diaphragm is the muscle that basically helps in increasing the volume of your thorax, which we will get into when we talk about inhalation and exhalation. And then G is the bronchioles. So the tips of bronchioles are where the alveolar sacs are, but bronchioles are basically further branches of the bronchus. How did people do? I want to know. Bronchus and bronchi difference is bronchi is multiple, bronchus is singular. Five out of seven is good. That's good. That's good. As long as you know what mistake you made and why you made it, you're okay. Would they deduct a point if you read bronchi instead of bronchus? I don't think so. What else? How can you tell if it's the bronchi or alveoli? So when it's in a diagram as big as this or as general as this, I don't think you can. You would usually just say, okay, wait. First of all, bronchi and alveoli are two different things in the first place. Bronchi is the main big two branches, and then bronchioles are the smaller branches, and then alveoli are the ones that are at the very end of bronchioles. Bronchioles and bronchi are not the same. Bronchi is just plural for bronchus. Bronchi are the two. Okay, so basically from the trachea, the tract moves down and then splits into two pathways, one into your left lung, one into your right lung. The two pathways are each a bronchus, or both of them are bronchi, and then the bronchi then split further into bronchioles, and then at the end of bronchioles or when you look through the microscopes, you can see the alveoli. Yes, trachea to bronchus to bronchioles to alveoli, even though that's not correctly spelled, but it's okay. The internal intercostal muscles are in between the ribs. Yes. Brenial. Okay. So, monitoring ventilation. Before we discuss how ventilation occurs, which, by the way, if anyone cares, I finished my Duolingo lesson that will no longer kill me. Anyway, monitoring ventilation. So, before we go into splitting between inhalation and exhalation and the whole mechanical process, we have to know how to monitor ventilation. So, there's two ways to monitor ventilation. The first one is the ventilation rate, and the other one is the tidal volume. So ventilation rate is the number of inhalations or exhalations per minute. And the tidal volume is the exact volume of the air that's taken in or exhaled out. So the first way to monitor ventilation is by monitoring the ventilation rate, which can be done by simple observation. So you can measure how many times a person inhales and exhales, and then within the time frame of a minute, and then just find the rate. Or you can also use data logging. So by data logging, first you'd use an inflatable chest belt placed around the thorax. So the thorax is the basically your chest area above your abdomen, and below your shoulders. I think you go under your armpits, so it's basically your main chest area is your thorax, and air will be pumped into that chest belt with a bladder, which, if you know how a blood pressure cuff works, similarly, it can be the chest belt can be inflated. And then a differential pressure sensor is then used to measure the pressure variation inside the chest belt due to your expansions. And then by measuring that that pressure variation, you can deduce the ventilation rate from and the relative size, not the exact volume, but the relative size of your ventilations through this process. The second way to monitor ventilation is by monitoring tidal volumes. So tidal volumes are measured using a spirometer. Simple spirometers can be made using a bell jar with volumes and placed in a pneumatic trough. So a tube is used to breathe. Ignore the 30, that was a spelling error. A tube is used to breathe out into the bell jar, and you can measure the expirated volume. And then that will help you obviously measure how much air you have exhaled in one exhale. And that tells you your tidal volume. So there's a lot of electronic spirometers now. It doesn't work. You don't have to use like a simple bell jar version. And now we have electronic spirometers that doctors use. Okay. So, yes, so what Lipid said. So when you monitor ventilation, the number of ventilations means either just inhalation or just exhalation. Yes, that's what a spirometer also looks like. Thank you, Lipid. You're saving this. I love you more. But yeah, so that's what I'll also put that in my slideshow, just so that okay. There you go. That's what a spirometer would look like. So ventilation of the lungs. There's inhalation and exhalation within the process of ventilation. And there's different muscle movements that cause sorry, this is supposed to be decrease. That's my bad. Decrease. So they change the volume of your thorax and therefore cause air to be moved either in or out of your lungs. So in inhalation, the volume of your thorax is increased by through the contraction of your external intercostal muscles. So when your external intercostal muscles contract, your rib cage moves up and outwards, which is why when you inhale, you notice that your shoulders rise and your chest moves forward and upwards, and and then the diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle at the bottom of your, so if you go back here, the diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle at the bottom of your lungs and at the bottom of your rib cage, also contracts, so it flattens and it moves down, and then that causes it to increase the overall volume of the thorax, which creates enough space for the lungs to inflate. And then because this volume increases, the pressure within your thorax drops below the atmospheric pressure around you. So by a normal diffusion, since the concentration of air is, if you think about it in terms of concentration, the concentration of air is higher around you versus in your thorax, more of the air will be pushed into your lungs and you inhale. And that's why it will basically fill up your thorax with more air until the pressure will rise to the same point as the atmospheric pressure. Now, when you talk about exhalation, basically almost the exact opposite thing happens. So the muscle movements will decrease the volume of the thorax, and this happens when the instead of the external, the internal intercostal muscles will contract, and that means the external will relax, and that means your rib cage will move back down and it will move back in, so your chest is not as further out. And then instead of anything happening to the diaphragm specifically, your abdominal muscles will contract, which will then push the diaphragm into a dome back into its original position like this. And then that's when it'll decrease the entire volume of your thorax. So when volume will be decreased, the pressure will increase, and then it will increase above what the atmospheric pressure around you is. And because of that, air will flow out of your lungs until the pressure will fall into the same pressure as the atmosphere. So if people take chemistry, then you will know that a lot of this is basically relationship between volume and pressure, and is also equilibrium. So because you'll create a concentration gradient, air will move so that an equilibrium can be reached again, basically. Okay, so the next is adaptations of an alveolus. So gas exchange surfaces, which in our human case is the alveoli. Gas exchange surfaces have 4 different properties. The first is they have to be permeable to oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is the obvious one, because without being permeable, there's no way for oxygen and carbon dioxide to flow within your lungs. They have to have a large surface area for diffusion, because the higher the surface area, the faster the diffusion rate. They have to be thin so that not a lot of distance has to be crossed by the oxygen and carbon dioxide molecules. And they also have to be moist so that oxygen can dissolve. Now, although each alveolus is very small, our lungs contain hundreds of millions of alveoli, which means that the overall surface area for gas exchange increases a lot. Okay, so this is more of a test. If you don't remember, it's okay. Yes, surface area to volume throwback, the ratio throwback. If you don't remember the exact ones, it's okay, but can everyone try to name what A, B, and C are? They will never ask the number of alveoli for MCQ. A, B, and C here. Just look at where the arrows are pointing from the boxes. Yeah, that's like asking the number of hairs on a human. They would never ask. Yes, please, spoiler your answer. I say this every time, and then it gets messed up every time. But it's okay. HL for gas. This is it for gas exchange. There's no HL for gas exchange. This is SL. That is not correct, lipid. I will have you know. You got all of them wrong. No, you got it right. Danik, you got it right. Danik or M or whoever's... I'm not gonna pronounce your name as if I'm screaming, because then it's just weird. But you got them all right, so don't worry. But yeah, lipid, you as a medical student can't get this wrong. I'm disappointed. You should see my face right now. Yes, Niho, you got it right. Peg also got it right. Mir also got it right. I will talk about the functions of the pneumocytes after this. Mel, yes, you are right. It is, yes. It's okay. You will learn how to spell it now, so it's okay. As long as you know how to spell it for the exam, that's all that matters. But yeah, you got them right, regardless of your spelling. You got them right. Mel, so did you, and then if people are still answering, I'll just wait. And then okay, Via, you got it right too. It's okay, Lipid. I forgive you. It's okay. It happens to all of us. That is pneumocyte. Now I'm doubting myself. That should be how you spell it. Deep fried. I think. I think. You know when you look at a word too much and then get confused whether that's how you spell it sometimes? I do that too many. Like, I do that all the time. The worst part is when I pronounce, oh, yes, receive. Yes. 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 That's what happens. The worst part is when, like, I do a revision session and then pronounce one word too many times. Like, thrombin at the beginning of this one. I was like, it wasn't a word anymore after a while. I was just saying thrombin. No, it's I before E except after C. I say that in my head every single time. Even though that rule doesn't apply for like half of the things. But yeah, it's always, if it's after a C, it's more likely to be EI than IE. I like how this is turning into a spell session. Yeah. English was yesterday. You are right. Okay, cool. So yes, most people got it right except the med student in our midst. Um, it's just shade. I'm throwing shade. No, I didn't say the name. I just said the med student. They can make their own guesses. Okay, so A is type 1 pneumocytes. So type 1 pneumocytes are alveolar cells that basically are what carry out gas exchange. So they're very thin and they're very permeable and they're adapted to carry out gas exchange. They they are usually the actual like thin layer that form that line the wall of the of any alveoli, and most of the walls consist of a single layer of these thin cells, and gases only have to diffuse just a very, very thin part of them to be able to pass through them. So that's why the entire lining of the alveolus is basically type 1 pneumocytes. The second is a blood capillary. So the alveolus is always covered by a dense network of blood capillaries with low oxygen and high carbon dioxide concentrations. Now, this is obviously, if this is a throwback to 6.2 where you talk about circulation and how blood transport works, but basically you know that pulmonary arteries take blood, deoxygenated blood from your heart into your lungs. Am I right? Is it is pulmonary arteries, right? Am I not? Am I? Okay, good. Yeah, pulmonary arteries take deoxygenated blood into your lungs, and then they diffuse into small capillaries that surround these alveoli. And this dense network of blood capillaries obviously will have low oxygen and high carbon dioxide, and therefore it facilitates diffusion. So oxygen from within the alveolus will flow into the blood capillary, and carbon dioxide from within the blood capillary will flow into the alveolus so that gas exchange can take place. And this is why type 1 pneumocytes are extremely thin. That's because so that they only have to pass through very thin layers, and it doesn't take a lot of time. C is type 2 pneumocytes. So these are the cells that secrete the surfactant, and basically they secrete a fluid that keeps the inner surface of the alveolus moist and allows oxygen to and the other gases to dissolve. But the fluid also contains a natural detergent, which is called the surfactant, which prevents the sides of the alveoli from sticking together by reducing surface tension. So we know that alveoli are really small. So as you can see on the diagram, it says 100, that's micrometers, I think. 100 micrometers, which means it's really, really small. Now, to prevent the alveolus from collapsing and maintaining its circular shape, it has to have the surfactant, which doesn't allow the sides to stick together, and it basically reduces the surface tension. Do we need to know it's approximately 100 micrometers? I don't think so. I just it's there. It's on the diagram, and I mean, honestly, at this point, whatever you remember, you remember. Pulmonary artery, heart to lung, pulmonary vein, lung to heart. Yes. What's the point of having a type 1 pneumocyte? Gas exchange. Breathing. Just breathing. Can I just go through the wall? Is it because the wall is not permeable? That's a really good question. And I'm going to let lipid answer that because I don't actually know. Because I don't know. And you're the med student. Yeah, that's just the diagram that's in on my slideshow is not what it looks like in real life. That's just a diagram for easy understanding. So the type 1 pneumocytes form most of the wall, I believe. Yes. Does that clear up what it what what it is, how it works? How does type 2 pneumocytes neutralize pressure? Pressure. Okay, yeah. So the way it neutralizes pressure, I got it now. The way it neutralizes pressure is by reducing the surface tension. So it allows the easy movement of gas. It allows the walls to not stick together, so there's not pressure created. Okay. Lung cancer. This is all very depressing. So, there are five main causes of lung cancer: smoking, passive smoking, air pollution, radon gas, asbestos, and silica. So, smoking, obviously, the surfactant is a liquid. Sorry, I just saw a question. The surfactant is part of the liquid that is secreted by the type 2 pneumocytes. Yeah, so smoking, tobacco smoke causes many mutagens. This is part of Unit 3 mutations and stuff. I did this. Yeah. So tobacco smoke contains many mutagens that cause tumors to develop. Smoking causes nearly 90% of lung cancer cases, and it's basically the biggest cause of lung cancer. The second is passive smoking. Now, this is when exhaled breath from smokers passes carcinogens onto others, both children and other adults. So, especially when if like a family member smokes and they smoke around you, then there's more chances of them passing on those carcinogens to you and to other people in the family. Smoking bans are attempting to reduce this. The third is air pollution. So, within air pollution, many of the sources include the exhaust fumes from diesel cars, nitrogen oxides from general vehicles, and smoke from wood and coal fires. The fourth is radon gas. So, in some areas, radon, by the way, is a, I believe, a is radon a what's it called? Noble gas? Yes, I think. Yes, I believe. I don't know. Yeah, so radon gas basically can leak out of rocks and granite, and it can cause, it again, carcinogens. It has carcinogens. It acts as a carcinogen, which causes lung cancer. And then the next is asbestos and silica. So, dust from materials such as these can cause cancer if they get deposited in the lungs, because your cells will try to fight them and then they will essentially cause a tumor to grow. The consequences of lung cancer are difficulties with breathing, persistent coughing, coughing up blood, general fatigue, chest pain, loss of appetite, and weight loss. Those are the 7 consequences or symptoms of lung cancer. Why is your dorm covered in asbestos? I'm scared for you. Okay. Emphysema. This is the other condition that we need to know. I think this is the last one. Yeah. So, the main cause of emphysema are smoking and air pollution. So, emphysema is when cilia that lines our airways and expel mucus are damaged and cease to function. So a mucus buildup is caused in our lungs, which then therefore causes infections. So the way it works is toxins in cigarette smoke and just general air pollution cause inflammation and damage to the lymphocytes that fight infections within our lungs. And then a protease, trypsin, can be released from those inflamed cells, and they can damage and the damaged white blood cells, and that enzyme will digest the fibers within your lungs and eventually cause a complete breakdown of your alveolar walls. So basically it'll cause there's also a large buildup of mucus within the lungs. So emphysema is chronic and progressive. So as with more exposure to smoking and air pollution, there are further consequences. But basically, in emphysema, oxygen saturation of the blood falls because there's lesser surface area, because more alveoli are damaged. There's shortness of breath because you lose lung elasticity because of the trypsin that's released from your cells. And then coughing and wheezing because of mucus in the lungs, because of the cilia are damaged. Emphysema does not go away even if you stop smoking. I don't think so. Where can you get asbestos? A lot of places actually, but it's never in a lot of. It's not in high quantities. I don't think. Okay, that's it for unit. 6.4. This was, I think, no, 6.3. Yes, this was 6.4. 6.5 is next. When option C will start. I don't know what time zone you're in, but I can send you the time. Hold on. Where is, dear God? Give me a second. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know before I start the next one. But where's the timers? Okay, option C will be at this time tomorrow. This time is, I can go to the slide before here. This time is yeah. It is we haven't done ecology. Why is everyone my fan? Guys, I'm not. Stop. Why am I getting people's firstborn? Oh my god. I think I didn't know. I didn't do I can't do an option D because I don't know option D. And I think Lipid did an option D review at some point last week. But I don't think it was recorded. So I apologize for that. Option C is ecology. Okay.